Hello everyone, welcome to the next lecture in the computer network series, and today we will see the basics of MAC addressing. Before we start, we will see the outcomes of today's session. In today's session, we have three outcomes. Outcome number 1, we will understand the basics of MAC addressing. Outcome number 2, we will understand the difference between IP address and MAC address. And outcome number 3, we will see the MAC address in real device. We will now move on to the basics of MAC addressing. MAC address. MAC stands for Media Access Control. We will talk about this media access control in the data link layer part of our series. For time being, you just understand MAC stands for Media Access Control. And every node in the local area network is identified with the help of MAC address only. To understand more about this, we will take an analogy. IP addresses are like the location of a person. Suppose, if a person is in Delhi, his location is Delhi. If a person is in Mumbai, his location is Mumbai. If a person is in London, his location is London. So IP addresses are like the location of a person. Wherever the person goes, his location gets changed. But MAC addresses are like the name of the person. Wherever he goes, his location may get changed, but his name will not get changed. So that is what the difference between an IP address and a MAC address. We will see an example now. In this example, we have many end devices and many intermediary devices. Suppose, if this computer wants to send some data to this computer and this communication happens with the help of both IP address and MAC address. Actually, routers need IP address and switches need MAC address. For example, this is the source and it wants to send some data to this receiver or the destination. With data it is going to send, it is going to add IP address and MAC address. When the router receives this packet, it takes the forwarding decision based on IP address. Once the data is received by this switch, and it is the responsibility of the switch to deliver the data to the right destination. So switch gives the data to the right destination based on the MAC address. So IP addresses are router friendly addresses and MAC addresses are switch friendly addresses. When any data wants to be sent from any source to the destination, so switch takes the decision based on the MAC address and router takes the decision based on the IP address. And every switch will maintain a MAC address table so that it knows to which computer it has to forward, which computer has that corresponding MAC address. In a local area network, we need MAC address in order to send the data to the right destination. We will now see more about MAC address. We have already seen every node in the local area network is identified with the help of MAC address. And these MAC address are physical address, or it can also be called as hardware address. We know very well that IP addresses are logical address where it can be changed. But these MAC addresses cannot be changed and it will be normally unique throughout the world. So if you have a computer and that computer's MAC address will not be given to any computer's MAC address in the world. At the same time, these MAC addresses cannot be changed. Why? Because these MAC addresses are assigned by the manufacturer. And the MAC addresses are represented in hexadecimal. An example hexadecimal value, that is the MAC address, is shown here: 70-20-84-00-ED-FC. This is an example MAC address, and this MAC address is of 48 bits. And this separator in the MAC address is decided by the manufacturer. And there are separators like hyphen, periods or dots, or even colons. So the manufacturer decides which separator they want to use for their MAC address representation. We will now see the difference between an IP address and a MAC address. So IP address versus MAC address. So IP address are definitely needed for our communication. Obviously, MAC address is also needed for our communication. And IP addresses are of 32 bits, whereas MAC addresses are of 48 bits. And we know very well that IP addresses are represented in decimal, whereas MAC addresses are represented in hexadecimal. Router needs IP address to forward the data, whereas switch needs MAC address to forward the data. So this is an example IP address which uses dot as the separator, 10.10.23.56, whereas 70-20-84-00-ED-FC, this is an example MAC address. Anyway, we will be studying about this IP address and MAC address more in the TCP/IP layering as well as in the OSI reference model. So far we have seen about MAC address and the comparison between IP address and MAC address. Now we will see how to see MAC address in real device. To see the MAC address in real device, go to the command prompt by just typing CMD in the search bar. After giving CMD, the command prompt gets opened now. Now, to see the IP address, we used to give ipconfig. To see the MAC address, we are required to give the command ipconfig/all. So this is the command that is used to see the MAC address details. If you observe here, I have an Ethernet adapter where I can establish my local area network with my Ethernet cable, or I can also use local area network through Wi-Fi. In this case, I have established my local area network through Wi-Fi, and we will see what is the MAC address of this Wi-Fi adapter. So this is the physical address. We already know physical address means MAC address, and 94-39-E5-E7-4C-6D. And this is the MAC address of this computer now. Any data that goes from this computer, it uses this as the source MAC address. Suppose if somebody is replying to me, and once my Wi-Fi router receives this data, and there may be hundreds of devices connected to my Wi-Fi router. My Wi-Fi router delivers the data to this computer by identifying this MAC address. So MAC addresses are very important in a local area network. So far we have seen how to see MAC address in real device. That's it guys. We are now at the verge of completing this session. I hope now you understood the basics of MAC addressing, and you understood the difference between IP address and MAC address, and you also know how to see MAC address in real device, that is ipconfig/all. I hope you enjoyed this session, and thank you for watching.